You know, I really could do with a cold shower, but there's someone I think who needs one a bit more than me. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It is greatly appreciated. And what a morning it is. Arsenal 4, Atletico Madrid 0. A brilliant result, great performance, and an even better scoreline, I think, to enjoy. That really, I think, creates something of a statement for European football, as Arsenal really do indeed announce themselves. And I will say this to you, for anybody who's actually been watching Arsenal over the course of this season, this has been coming. This result has been coming. Arsenal have been so dominant in so many of their games, deserving of so much more than actually they've got from majority of their games, that this result was coming. They were the better team against Manchester City. They were the better team, certainly in the first half, against Liverpool. They were, for me, only really poor away to Manchester United this season, and obviously still managed to win that game. They deserve more than the one goal at Fulham, more than the 2 goals against West Ham, more than the 2 goals against Olympiacos, more than the 3 goals against Nottingham Forest. Arsenal have been worthy of a lot more than what they have been getting in games. And when that finally clicks, and when it finally works, and when the floodgates finally open, you're going to start to see an Arsenal side that are very convincing indeed. And that is exactly the Arsenal side that we saw in the second half of yesterday's result over Atletico Madrid. But good morning to you all. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. And I hope you've had an absolutely fantastic week so far. And I'm sure the game last night certainly helped in that regard. Good morning to all of you joining me in the chat box. Good morning to Paul and Arasilki, to Kirill and Abdul Hakim. Good morning to Carl. We've got Black Shine. We've got Kirill and Carrie-Ann. We've got Jeffrey and local Gooner. We've got Soup and Norris. We've got LP. We've got Lloyd in the chat box this morning as well. We've got Soup. We've got Claire. We've got Justin. Good morning to Mark. Good morning to Angela, Keith and David. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much. So many of you, as always, for tuning in. It is greatly appreciated you being here. We're going to run through today's slides before jumping into the chat box and tackling plenty of your comments and thoughts about the game in part 2. So let's not waste any more time, shall we? They might need a cold shower. Is the theme, of course, of the last 24 hours that I've just seen so much talk about that kind of quip and quibble from Monday evening at the Emirates to really find itself coming full circle, as Diego Simeone was subjected to many chants from the Arsenal fans, a personal favourite being Diego, what's the score? That was very enjoyable indeed. But a great result, a great win for Arsenal, and a game that could have big ramifications, I think, for certain individuals in this team. And one of them is on the screen right now, and we'll come to Viktor Gyökeres a little bit later on. But it was a performance that was deserving of the victory. There's no doubt about that. Atletico Madrid made a good, I thought, account of themselves still. I think they were a good team. I think if you'd have watched the game overall and the performance of the opposition, you probably would have said that that's not a performance of a team that had just been on the end of a 4-0 drubbing. But based upon what Arsenal produced and what Arsenal did, they deserved a very strong win in the game based upon their own performances as well. The lineup did have indeed a couple of changes to it. Lewis Skelly playing at left back. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a second. And Gabriel Martinelli coming in for Leandro Trossard as well on the left-hand side. I did say I thought this game might suit Martinelli somewhat more than it would do Leandro Trossard. And it was good to see that was indeed the case, particularly with his goal, again, that we'll talk about in more detail shortly. But otherwise, it was an unchanged side, and one, of course, where the players like Ezra in the 10, of course, are trying to learn and get more from those roles and learn more from those roles. The only real kind of like scary moment, I think, of course, was the David Raya scenario where, he made a couple of mistakes. He made a couple of errors Particularly, of course, the first one was not seeing the ball out all the way, and the second one was then not booting the ball out of play, because had Giuliano Simeone's shot found its way into the back of Arsenal's net, as it probably should have done, the game may have gone a very, very different way indeed. But it was just that kind of one-off mistake, and we still didn't concede a shot on target from that from that moment. At least there was a shot on target somewhere in the game, although I'm trying to think off the top of my head where that shot on target came from, because there were so many blocks. And I know there was a shot at the end that David Raya did save, but there was a foul in the build-up to that, which the referee blew for, which I thought would have cancelled out that shot being taken, but apparently not according to the statistics. But I'm not quite sure. I can't quite remember what that shot on target was, but that's one shot on target conceded in the last 3 matches alone. Quite the incredible run that Arsenal continue to go on defensively. And after a first half, of course, where it was kind of a war of attrition, there are opportunities. Eze hit the bar, of course, in the opening minutes of the game. Lewis Skelly dragged a shot wide from the left-hand side. And Martinelli, of course, also had a goal ruled out after Bukayo Saka's driven cross. Martinelli really should be onside in that moment. He should be able to look down the line and keep himself in an onside position. Thankfully, he would make up for that error slightly later on in the game. But it was the second half where the floodgates opened, and following a Julian Alvarez strike, which also hit Arsenal's crossbar, it would then be the turn of the set piece to get things going again for Arsenal, with Declan Rice's deliveries on point as usual. What a free kick whipped into the near post, that all it needed was a simple touch for Gabriel Magalhaes to just tap the ball into the back of the net. And it was a brilliant delivery from Declan Rice. And as we talked about before, Arsenal should have scored in the first half. That Martinelli goal should have stood if it was not for his poor positioning, of course, and should have really been onside in that moment. And would have produced a goal from open play. But again, when the keys, of course, so far that you've tried aren't quite doing the job, sometimes you've got to go and get the master key out. And Arsenal have found themselves a master key in the form of set pieces, and that got the ball rolling, with Gabriel scoring a great header. But the second goal is indeed Arsenal in full flow from open play, courtesy, first of all, you have to say, of a wonderful Miles Lewis Skelly run, driving through the middle of the field. This is what Miles Lewis Skelly brings you that Calafiori doesn't. Like, Calafiori will pop up in different positions up and down the pitch. Miles Lewis Skelly is just so good at transitioning the ball from the defensive third to the attacking third. He's just so good at holding players off and keeping the ball under control. Perfect pass then to Gabriel Martinelli, whose finish, again, is also on point. We have so many times talked about Gabriel Martinelli's lack of the final end product being spot on. But in this case, it absolutely was spot on. And overall, even despite the mistake in the first half with the goal that was ruled out, I think Martinelli had a very solid game indeed. Very, very impressive game. In fact, I was very happy with his performance overall. He won the free kick, of course, as well, which led to Declan Rice's delivery to Gabriel for the opening goal. In fact, that whole movement of winning that free kick came from him having to ride 2 or 3 challenges before eventually, of course, he was taken down by Marcus Llorente, I think it was. So Martinelli, very impressive game indeed. Very, very happy with his performance indeed. And I think I gave him a 9 out of 10, which you might say is over the top, but I just think he was worthy of it. I thought he was excellent. But it was, I think the story of the game ended with the headline act. 2 goals for Viktor Gyökeres. I don't know what it is. It seems that nobody else can do the celebration properly. Gabriel Magalhaes, of course, recreating his goal from Sporting last season with what he describes as the Batman celebration. I'm not quite sure what Martinelli is doing here. Martinelli doesn't really seem to understand either of the 2 celebrations, and he's seemingly come up now with his own. I don't quite know what he's doing. But Gyökeres' 2 goals. The first one, of course, the ball fired in behind brilliantly by Zubimendi to Martinelli, whose first time left-footed cross finds Eze eventually, whose shot is blocked, ironically, I think, by Viktor. And he has the difficulty of kind of getting the ball out from under his feet before then finding a strike, which definitely gets a lot of help. There's no doubt about that. And I think it's Nico Gonzalez, potentially, that the deflection comes off. But no one is going to complain about that from an Arsenal point of view. He's not going to complain about that. It's a goal that he needed. He's in the right place. And I thought outside of the goals as well, Viktor Gyökeres had a good game. I think his running was good. I think his hold-up play was good. I think his touch was much better than we've seen previously. Some really good layoff passes as well for teammates. Some brilliant kind of, as I say, the winning of a couple of fouls in dangerous positions. Overall, his game was really good as well. And his second goal is another set piece from Arsenal. Two of the goals they scored tonight indeed were from corners. Not rather from corners, but just from set piece. The first one being the free kick, the second one being the corner. Whipped in by Declan Rice, of course. Back post, Saliba, brilliant header. And there's Gyökeres to tap in a simple way, just like Trossard did at Fulham at the weekend, to complete Arsenal's demolition job of Atletico Madrid and to win in style. We're going to take your questions in part 2, but I just want to bring up one more player before we go to part 2. And there is no doubt in my mind that it absolutely has to be Martin Zubimendi. My word, what a season this man is already having. His first season in an Arsenal shirt, and he is unbelievably good. World class. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Zubimendi is a world class footballer and has produced some top performances, of course, previously with Real Sociedad and now, of course, with Spain. But what he has produced with Arsenal in his first, 11, 12 games has been absolutely brilliant. Now, he is suspended, of course, for the next game after a nothing yellow card. But frankly, I'll take it because it means he misses the Slavia Prague game, but it means he is definitely not going to miss, unless he is injured, of course, the Bayern Munich match in November. He's not going to miss that game. So that's definitely a positive, certainly, from the booking. But just about his performance, his passing, the little flick through for Gyökeres in the second half where kind of takes the ball back to goal and somehow finds a way to kind of flick the ball through to Gyökeres. Astonishingly good touch. Passing behind for Martinelli for Gyökeres' first goal in the end that leads to that cross. Again, sublime pass on his left foot. Absolutely excellent. He's just so good with kind of like the last kind of touch, last minute touch to his teammates. He's just so... For me, he's just taken that position to new heights. I know I keep on saying, and I will keep on saying, Thomas Partey is a great footballer and produced some very good performances for Arsenal. But I'm sorry, but Zubimendi has already shown me that there was more to come from that position, that there is a level above that. And Zubimendi is a level above that because he simply has been, probably alongside Jurriën Timber, Arsenal's best player this season. Utterly and entirely excellent. Right, let's go to part 2, get some of your thoughts and comments in the chat box right after this. Right, this is part 2 of today's show where we'll be jumping into the chat box and tackling some of your questions. So if you've got questions you'd like to throw into the chat, use the capital Q to help them stand out. And we'll do our best to go through as many of them as feasibly possible. AJ, thank you so much for the kind super chat. Says, Raya got so bored that he decided I'm going to create a problem for myself and then try and solve it. Silly boy. Certainly, I think he won't be making that mistake anytime soon. Kirill, thank you so much for your super chat as well. What's happening with Nkapie? We will see him soon. I hope that we do. I think it was a little surprising that he didn't come off the bench yesterday. We didn't get an opportunity to see him. Mosquera, of course, came off the bench. I think we will see him soon. But yeah, it was odd that he didn't play. Temi, thank you so much for your kind support over the last 18 months. He's been a member of us for that long. Amazing. 1.5 years. I only said 3 years. It's bad counting. 1.5 years of support there. And Joe says, Tom, we considered a shot on target. That's not the fogging standards. In Arteta's voice. Absolutely. And Temi also points out, says, remember when Simeone should have replaced Arteta? Oh, yeah. Those people in the mud, firmly, face down, flat, forever. Lloyd says, Zubi is world class. I don't care if it's been 11 games. The man is good on the eye test. It tells us this. Hey, look, I'm always one to question people's eye tests, but it's not just the stats here. You know, you can see it with your own eyes. You can see it in the numbers. The guy has been astonishingly good this season so far and is being a world-class player in a top team in both the league and in Europe. No doubt about that. Chino says, I think we should be able to cope in Prague without Zubimendi. Norgard can step in. You've also got Rice could play, and you could play with Winery and Ezra if you wanted to. There are other options, of course, not just Norgard. But yes, that is an option for us in that particular game. JJ says, Liverpool fans whose top Premier League 8 games, clean sheets, UCL 3 games, 3 clean sheets, Cup 1 game, clean sheet 1 game. I wouldn't focus too much on Liverpool, mate. It's don't be them. They're the ones that go in everywhere and make it about them. So let's not go everywhere and make it about them as well. We don't need to. Luke says, Tom, we gave up 2 shots on target. The defense is washed. Sell them all. Was there 2? I'm pretty sure that Gallagher's one doesn't count because there was a foul given in just before the build up to it. So I don't think that one counted. I think it was maybe Alvarez, not the crossbar. I think there was another chance that maybe was blocked or saved and should have scored, but yeah, somewhere we considered a shot on target. Rich says, can we pretend Winery's goal line clearance was going in? I'd love seeing him put in that defensive shift. It was a really kind of cool cameo, actually, from Winery. I did enjoy it. Absolutely. I feel like I've missed a lot of comments. I need to scroll back up. Derek says, Havertz, Jesus, Odegaard, and Madueke to come back still. Man, yeah, it's scary, very scary in a good way. Game says, I reckon Arsenal have all the tools to destroy Bayern. Arteta should just play all the highlights of them destroying us during the Wenger days. Killer performance coming. That is, I said in the game to I think it was Rob, the guy next to me from TNT Sports. I said to him that Bayern game is going to be a real interesting battle to see because they're probably the 2 most impressive teams in Europe right now, Arsenal and Bayern. So yeah, very much looking forward to that one. Ronan says, Tom, the dynamics within the squad may be the catalyst for Premier League and or Champions League glory. Yeah, I mean, just the way that the team seem to have gelled and, you know, they just love the family aspect and the togetherness of this group. Just saying, this was the light show good? The atmosphere brilliant. The atmosphere really did improve throughout the game. Like I was getting kind of bad vibes at the beginning of the match. I tweeted as much before the game. I was getting bad vibes. I'm always honest about the atmosphere. But the atmosphere grew. It improved. It got so much better. And I think that came about as a result of how the game was being played, the frenetic nature of the match, the kind of tough tackling of both sides. And I think Atleti, in a way, kind of woke up the Emirates to a degree. The light show, look, don't get me wrong. If you're going to play Backbone by Stormzy and Chasing Status, I'm all for that. You know, don't get me wrong. I love the track. I was surprised the words weren't being used in the song. There might be reasons for that, but you know, I know there's some controversial words in the lyrics to the song, but you can always change them. I'm sure there's a radio version of the song which makes it all right to play. But I thought there was something. If you're going to play a drum and bass song, turn the bass up. That it just kind of lacked that impact. That song, if you ever listen to it properly in your AirPods, where you've got headphones with a proper like bass to it, it's a brilliant track. But if you haven't got the impactful bass, it kind of falls short. So look, I've waited a long time to hear drum and bass being played at Arsenal, but it just kind of lacked that little bit of oomph. And I thought it needed to be combined with kind of some iconography of kind of Arsenal on the television screens as well. But I think the light show works. I think the premise works, kind of the idea of the lights syncing with your phones to create the live show. I think it's a really cool idea. And I think it really does work. In these league phase games, in the knockout games, I want to see, you know, the red and white tifos like that. I think really lights up the stadium and creates a massive spectacle. But for me, the light show and the music, there was just something missing from that just needs to be tweaked, and it could work because Brentford. If you've ever been to the GTEC community stadium, they play a lot of drum and bass before the game. And with the light show, and it's got kind of the speakers have got the oomph to them to really kind of get the crowd going. But Arsenal kind of lacks that a little bit. So I don't know if it had been turned down or for whatever reason, but there was kind of a little bit of execution issue, I think, with that. But the atmosphere was great. I think it really improved throughout the game and grew to the point where everybody was very much enjoying themselves. It didn't feel like the PSG game last season at all in the end, which is a really good thing because that was a disappointing atmosphere against a really big side last season, the league phase. This was nothing like that. Arthur says Gabriel has scored the most goals in the top 5 leagues, more than any other defender since 2020. I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what an asset he has been to the club. Frazzle says, screw rival fans in general, but their comments are a joke. If you had that Rice delivery and a player like Gabriel, why would you not use it? I'd just ignore them, mate. They're just jealous. They're just utterly and entirely rattled. I really wouldn't give it any energy at all. Abdul Hakim says, is Zubimendi the best DM in the world or Europe right now? I mean, name me a better one at the moment. Name me a better number 6 right now in terms of their current form and performances. I'll wait. Henkov says, is the competition for places really the reason for some of our players stepping up like Miles Lewis-Skelly? Without a doubt, these players have got to fight for their places. They've got to fight when they get a chance. They've got to put in the top level performances to prove that they should be playing more. They absolutely, the competition for places is having this type of impact. Nick says, is Zubimendi better than Arteta was in his prime? Yeah, of course. Arteta was a good player, but he was never a world-class player, Mikel Arteta. He was a good, really good player, but he wasn't world-class. Zubimendi, yeah, is absolutely a better one. Someone says, isn't it hilarious that Zubi is exactly the sort of player that Liverpool need right now? He so nearly went there. Yeah, well, he waited to join a better team. Kirill says, the mechanic. Well, why are so many people talking about Liverpool? We're just beating Atletico Madrid. Why are you all falling into the trap? Don't fall into the Liverpool trap. We've not played against them. We're not even playing in the same competition domestically at the moment. I don't think they even played last night. Why are you falling into the Liverpool trap? Don't fall into that trap. Don't reduce yourselves to what they're like. Just let it go. Focus on Arsenal. Celebrate Arsenal. That's what's clear. Yes, so PSG, the league phase game against PSG last season. Kevin says, so many toxic rivals said that set-piece goals are not sustainable, just like Liverpool's last-minute goals. Or should take more comments about Liverpool. I mean, I think they're a lot more sustainable than scoring goals right at the end of games because you can do them so consistently throughout matches, of course. Joseph, Tom, what's your thoughts on the yellow card rule for the league phase? It's mad, isn't it? 2 yellows and you get a suspension. Absolutely mental. Mental, that is. It is mental. Dale says, attempt save. Thiago Almeida, left-footed shot from the left side of the box is saved in the bottom left-hand corner by David Raya. Assisted by Alvarez. There you go. There's the shot on target. Ruben says, Tom, have you seen the stat that in the Champions League phase, Arsenal has never conceded a goal or lost a game when playing at home? I did. I wrote about it this morning. It's quite the statistic. There are some amazing statistics from last night. Arsenal have won 10 of their 12 matches in all competitions this season. Least goals we've conceded in 3, it being 3 in the first 12 matches in 138-year history. We have won our last 15 Champions League phase home matches, and we've kept a clean sheet in 11 of our last 14 Champions League home games, and 1 shot on target against us in our last 3 straight matches. So, yeah, some very impressive numbers there regarding Arsenal. Carl says, looks like Big Gabby has taken Gyökeres under his wing and is pushing him to celebrate and bask in the fans while doing his own celebration, and that took the mick against Sporting. Yeah, look, all of the players are very behind Viktor Gyökeres and want him to achieve things and can see it in training. That's what I hear, at least. That's what they've said, at least, is they can see it in training. They can see what he's producing there, and they know it's only a matter of time until it starts happening on a regular occasion on the pitch. And to score 2 goals against a very good opponent is very impressive and shouldn't be taken lightly, despite them being, very kind of poachers, strikers goals. They're the type of goals that we want to create more of as well. Daniel says, who's been a member now for 61 months, more than 5 years supporting the channel. Thank you, Daniel. Was just thinking, Eza still hasn't turned it on yet. Just wait until he's in full flow. Gyökeres will be scoring goals for fun with Eza behind him as well. Absolutely. Paul says, yesterday we kept Nkapia and Calafiori on the bench and Dalman playing the Champions League Youth League. Add them to Ødegaard, Madueke, Havertz and Jesus. Our squad is scary. Absolutely. Well, he says, Tom, why are you so corporate these days? In what regard, Ollie? You'd have to let me know. You've kind of left the statement with no explanation, so I don't know what you mean. Shunita says, Tom, oh my lords, we are a proper team and we need to talk about Mikel. He deserves a lot of praise. And Berta, damn, the signing we never knew he needed. Arsenal fans deserve this happiness. Avinash says, the only thing that we missed was the goal scorers celebrating like they were in a cold shower. That would have been very funny. Mark says, how about a song that for when Waneri scores? He's only 18. His skills are scary. He's one of our own. He's Ethan Waneri. Local Gooner says, I saw it live at the MK Bowl with him in a suit straight from a wedding. So Nicholas, Tom, you were correct. UEFA Stats website says Atletico only had 1 shot on target. I saw it says, Tom, the music, DMB. Oh, yeah, if you're going to play DMB, I'm going to talk about it. PT says our sound system is outdated. The columns don't have enough bass door. The Ballon bass door. No, the bass for this kind of music. I do tend to agree. That must be the reason. Zero says it's clear you went to uni in Nottingham, being into drum and bass. Stealth on Saturdays were top draw back in the day. Memories. Paul says these speakers can't cope with the bass. Can we crowdfund for tifos for the big nights at the Emirates? There needs to be an upgrade in that regard. If you're going to play drum and bass, you need the speakers for it. It's as simple as that. There really can't be too much debate about that at this point. JRS says, I swear the shot on target, right? I saved it outside the post. It didn't look like it was going in. It's devastating to see that kind of end. Vitinha, arguably the better than... I mean, Vitinha's not a number 6 or so for starters. He's definitely a box-to-box midfielder. Joseph says, we're Arsenal and we need not to pay any attention to the other noise. Absolutely. It's just, I don't know why people need to get obsessed with other teams. Enjoy what we have been enjoying. Just saying, says Simeone was fun to watch. I thought he needed an oxygen mask until the goals get... It is startling how he behaves on the touchline, and yet Arteta's the one that kind of gets the criticism. I honestly believe that technical boxes should just be removed. I really don't see the point of them. Technical areas need to be removed. As long as managers don't cross the line and don't get in the way of the players as they're kind of taking throw-ins and whatever, and they're always outside their boxes anyway. Just let them celebrate. Let them be outside their technical box. As long as they don't infringe on what players are doing when they're taking throws and stuff. And of course, they should be booked for that if they do. Just remove that. It's just, there's too many rules these days in the game. Fuad says, so happy to see Martinelli coming back to form. We miss his pace and most importantly, chipping in some goals, which is why I would start him and play Trossard off the bench when we need a goal. Kian says, sadly, Tom, your disappointment with the music lies with the poor quality of the sound system at the Emirates. It just needs to be improved. It's a simple fix. Eddie says, what is your points expectation after 19 games? I think above 45, we can win the league. I mean, you've got to try and look. If 45 would get you halfway, 90 points on track to get 90 points. If Arsenal get over 45 points in the first 19 games, they would have done very, very well. Very, very well. I mean, the maximum number of points that you can get in your first 19 games is 57. Arsenal are already down to a maximum potential of 52, I think. So if you can get over 45, you have done very, very well. Delta says, I'm sorry, Tom. Arteta was world-class. I would have played for England if they got the registration right. He only didn't play for Spain as they had 3 slightly better players at the time. I love the appreciation, but trust me, when you're looking at world-class Spanish midfielders, Arteta, for me, just the level below. He was very good, but for me, it wasn't world-class. Samuel says it was wonderful to see how the team embraced Viktor Gyökeres after he scored, particularly after he was embarrassed about his first goal. Love this team. Summer says it's always okay to laugh at Liverpool. Bailey says Zubi isn't faultless. There's definitely room for improvement, but I'm glad he's our. I mean, if there's room for improvement in what we're seeing from Zubimendi, and he's already putting in world-class performances, I mean, that's scary, isn't it? What he can potentially produce for us. Joe said Patrick Vieira would never play a game with 2 yellow card suspension. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Lucas says, Tom, with Palace coming on Sunday, I believe that we'll score goals because they like to attack unless they change the way that they play. Look, Fulham love to attack, but they change the way that they play. Man City love to attack, but they change the way that they play. So our teams are changing the way they play when they play Arsenal because they know that they have to try and absorb pressure. It really is as simple as that. And Samuel says, Tom, do you think 43 goals across 9 Champions League games last season is a record? There must have been something in the air. 43 goals across 9 Champions League games last night. Wow, that's a lot of goals. It must be pretty close, right? Surely. Isoa says Arsenal's record against Spanish teams is impeccable. I mean, what's that? Athletic Club, down. Atletico Madrid, down. Real Madrid, down. With Girona down. Yeah, we are just absolutely swatting aside Spanish La Liga clubs right now, our Arsenal. Robert says the standard expectations have gone up and the players are reacting. We now have a group of leaders and captains. Rolo says Gabby's intent to get back and block Simeone's shot when 1-0 up was equally important. 100%. Yes, he got straight back up, didn't he, and blocked that shot from Alvarez. Or Simeone it was. You're right. It was a very, very good piece of defensive work. He made a really good block as well on Alvarez in the first half as well. I thought Gabriel was excellent. Simon says Big Vic is 5 in 12. That's by no means a bad start. It's just a media narrative that he's not going to score. I do tend to agree. JJ says Zubimendi reminds me a little bit of Fabregas and a little bit of Cazorla. Maybe Cazorla when he was playing alongside Coquelin more so, when he was playing in kind of that deeper role. But he's better defensively, far better defensively than Santi. And Santi's my favourite player ever. So, that says a lot. Chris says, hi, Tom. Which body part did Gyökeres use to score his second goal? Undefined, I think. I think that's the technical term. Undefined, we'll go with. Lee says, Tom, just imagine how good this team will be if they get a talented, recognised left winger. I mean, they have talented left wingers, mate. But if we can improve that position even more, then great. I don't know if it will happen in January, but it's definitely in Arsenal's future. Lloyd says, the meltdown from opposition fans and Standards FC is fun to a Standards FC. Peter says, MLS is better than Calafiori. I mean, I think they're both great. I don't think we need to jump into this binary world of one's better than the other and jump into different camps, but I think they're both great. Carl says, wow, what a game. Zubimendi makes it easy to forget and complain about letting Partey leave on a free. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I kind of touched on that earlier in the show. He's for me, evolved that position. He's taken that level up from what Partey produced for us already in such a short period of time. And that's very impressive indeed. Gun Adult says, Tom, eye test is a massive part of player evaluation. That plus stats, but eye test shouldn't be brushed aside. I don't brush it aside ever. I just tend to kind of look at the eye test when people use it as an example to ignore statistics as a little bit of just being quite agenda driven. It's like what often I find is it's people who put it in like their Twitter or Instagram bios. those people are putting the eye test is king or something. They're the people, of course, that often get proved wrong by the facts and are like, but the eye test. You got to use both. It's as simple as that. Diuma says, why do you think Atletico struggled in those 13 minutes? I think it's a mentality thing. You got to regroup. You got to reorganize. You got to come back strong. You got to face the music. And Arsenal just kept pushing and the walls broke down. They fell down and they created mistakes and Arsenal forced mistakes. And that happens. If Arsenal get a goal, so often of opposition teams, it happened against Fulham. Like Arsenal should have gone on to win that game by more. We should have had a penalty, certainly. And of course, there are other moments where we should have scored the double save at the end from Leno. When we score, teams do tend to somewhat fold a little bit against us. So we need to find the net as early as possible in games, really. Kosa says, do you think Jamie O'Hara is done moving the goalpost? Gyökeres only scores ugly goals. I mean, frankly, I don't like giving too much energy to the moment, but I would say and I would suggest that those that decide to get Jamie O'Hara on for anything other than rage baiting, if it is really anything other than, because that is all that he is good for, it's just to create a response, create a reaction to hate on Arsenal. Arsenal are playing tonight. Who should we get on the show? Jamie O'Hara. Instead of getting some really good people who talk really good about, not just in positive ways, but critical ways about Arsenal. You can get so many better people on, but you choose to get him on. I think we all know the reason why. Boss says, do you think the January window will be quiet? I think it probably will. Yeah, we spent a lot of money in the summer. I don't think there's a need to have a busy January window. We've brought in 8 players. Unless there's a big injury crisis, I don't think we need to. Ruben says, why does Alvarez shot off the bar not count as a shot on target? Because it's not a shot on target. The goal within the posts is the target. The posts are not the target. You can sometimes score by hitting the post or hitting the crossbar, but it's technically not a shot on target, ironically, even though it could go in. So, yeah, the post is not the target. The goal between the posts is the target. AFC Till I Die says, I know that Gyökeres got man of the match, but I thought Big Gabby with a goal and an assist, and then straight after his goal, he makes a vital block to stop a shot on the goal. I don't think he got an assist, did he? I think he just got a goal. I think it was Saliba that headed the ball across the goal to Gyökeres. Am I forgetting something? I'm pretty sure that he just got a goal. I thought Gabriel was great. He got 8 out of 10 for me. But I did rate performances of others slightly higher than him. But they're all great. If we're having arguments about who was the greatest, that's a great debate to have, a massive debate to have. Vaka says, do you think the sound system will be Sky's major talking point this week? Mike says, Arteta was a tidy player and a good captain, but he wasn't world class. So I think we can agree with that. Zubi's 3rd yellow card. Was it his 3rd yellow card? Maybe it was. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's 3 rather than 2. But I feel like I can't remember the him getting 2 before that. But Declan Rice is on the same. If Declan Rice gets booked against Slavia Prague, he will miss the game against Bayern Munich. So they need to be very aware of that. Culture Mark says, TC, Maslow Skilly was on fire And was my man of the match for many reasons. Who was your man of the match? Zubimendi, because he was just perfect. Matthew says Martinelli maybe is lifting his head up but covering his eyes in celebration, at least only. Shawnita says, I reckon rival fans will surrender the league to us once we trash Bayern. PT says offensively, Zubimendi is top, but defensively is not yet fit for the Premier League. PT, you need to go and watch a little bit more of Zubimendi, mate. Lee says, Tom, just imagine how good this team will be if they get talented, recognised left wingers. Again, I really think that our left wing is fine at the moment. We've got Eza, we've got Trossard, we've got Martinelli, and they're doing very well. You know, there aren't too many left wingers out there scoring more goals than Martinelli and Trossard this season so far. So I don't think you need to worry about it all that much. I really don't. It's not a big deal for us at the moment. Next summer, maybe. Right now, I think we're fine. Tofadzwa says, Tom, I believe that Gyökeres' second goal was a header. No, it wasn't a header. He kind of like... I don't really know how to... He kind of Trossarded it in, didn't he? It was a little bit higher up than his thigh, let's say. Rich says, Martinelli is brilliant. Let's not hurry to replace him. No reason Dalman can't take a wing in a year or two as well. And Gunnar says, did you see our horrors nonsense? Yes, I did. I put a tweet out about it. You can go read my thoughts on it there. I don't think I need to give it any more oxygen here. Nifty Legend says, so unfair that Gyökeres gets to score with his third arm. Anza says, the way Zubimendi and Rice complement each other is that midfield is beautiful to watch. Wow. Fuad says, thoughts on any of the Atletico players, Tom? I thought Alvarez was really good. So glad he's not a sit anymore. Yeah, I thought Alvarez was excellent. Really good. I was quite impressed with Nico Gonzalez as well. I thought he had a decent game. Yeah, and Barrios I quite like Barrios. I think he's a tidy player. One to keep an eye on. Michael says, Arteta's best years were with Everton, who were regularly in the top six, but never came anywhere near winning anything. He was there for 6 years and no one came for him. Very good player, though. Mr. J says, Tom, not getting carried away in October, but Arsenal for the double. Not getting carried away at all, are you, Jay? Not at all. Lucas says, Merson said that we steamrolled Madrid. Biggest defeat Simeone has had in the Champions League. Yeah, that's quite impressive if true. His biggest ever defeat. Claire says, when the commentators called them at Atletico, I had visions of Tom with a voodoo doll and pins. Well, thankfully, I didn't have the commentary because I was in the stadium. But you can be sure that I would have been pulling my hair out. That is for sure. Moving to losses. Stop paying attention to the haters. Indeed, you can stop paying attention to the haters, people. Shay says, would you take Marguerhi if he suddenly wanted to come to us in January? I mean, do we need him? We've got a really good base. If anything, we need to, if we're going to sign a defender, it's probably going to be a long-term Ben White replacement rather than a centre-half, to be honest. Was it Gabby? A lot of you said it was Gabby. Why did I think it was Saliba? For some reason, I thought I saw number 2 on the back of his shirt. I need to go back and watch it again. Mark says, Gyökeres and Gabby's goal celebration centered around Gabby's head assist as well. Hectic says, who starts on the left on Sunday, Trossard or Martinelli? Probably Martinelli. I think he's probably stylistically suits the game a little bit better. And Culture Mike says, Tom, Gyökeres' second goal was also a header, winky face. Think we know where you're coming from. Ollie says, is it true Harry randomly started screaming in the press conference for no reason? No, it's not. And you're getting blocked because you're just trolling at this point, and we block trolls. Gardalt says, who on earth just said Arteta was world-class player? Lucas says, us as fans should really enjoy watching this Arsenal team and how well we are doing. Absolutely. Callum says, last night was massive for Victor. It's amazing how when you get the second goal, it comes to you very quickly. Indeed, it is a case of kind of like, for me, just that snowball effect, if you will. Devez says, if the squad is fully fit, who would you put on the bench? The depth is incredible. I mean, that's a really big question, isn't it? Because it's not just about who you put on the bench. It's also about who you leave out entirely. That is the question. Because there isn't enough spaces in the matchday squad for all of our players. That's all. Carl says it's crazy. Thank you for the kind donation. Says it's crazy to see how far this squad has developed since Arteta started. We have players that could start on any team waiting for an opportunity on the bench. Such a privilege to witness this journey. You're absolutely right. Stunning. The growth, the squad depth, the quality, the building, just the work that's gone on with Arteta and Berta and the hierarchy, the squad that they've built over the last 5 years. Edu, of course, involved previously as well. You've got to give some credit there. I know some of you would be reluctant to do that, but you absolutely do have to give credit where it's due. The squad that has been built is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Who do you leave out, says Devase? And that is the question, isn't it? If you had a fully fit squad, what does it look like? I mean, the starting 11, if the best starting 11 that we have right now is Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Gyökeres, Eze. That would be my best 11. So you have 9 subs. Kepa is your first one. Mosquera has to be your second one. I think it's probably then Ben White and Lewis Skelly having those 3 defenders. You've then got to have, I think Marino has got to be in there as well. I think I'm leaving Norgard out the squad at this point. And then you have to go with Trossard and Martinelli. And I'm leaving out one of Madueke or Havertz. No, I can include Madueke and Havertz, can't I? But I'm leaving out Waneri. Waneri's not getting in the squad at the moment. That's scary. You could argue putting him in instead of Marino, but I think you've got to have a kind of semi-box-to-box type option. You could leave Trossard or Martinelli out for Waneri potentially. It's really hard. It's so hard, and it just shows you how much depth there is in this squad. It is very, very impressive. Norris says, Tom, what did you make of the UEFA Youth League result? Surely you would have heard about the result. Unlucky for the young lads. Yeah, look, I think they kind of collapsed, didn't they, after Atletico started to come back in that game. Dalman had an excellent performance. I think 2 penalties. I haven't seen the highlights or the goals yet. I've just literally kind of caught a glimpse of the scoreline. But the problem that Arsenal have got with their youth team is that ultimately their best youth players get promoted very early into the senior squad or are sold to other senior teams because they're good enough. And whereas other clubs, you know, their youth teams tend to be better because those players are staying in the youth team longer as opposed to leaving and playing senior football. So I always think that people kind of misinterpret Arsenal's youth team and don't really understand kind of why they're struggling or why they have struggles at kind of European youth level league and sometimes even just a domestic youth level, because ultimately they play with very young players. You look at the average age of their squad and I guarantee you that it's there's some interesting numbers that come out of that, definitely. So it says, Tom, does MLS remind you of Dembele from Tottenham, as in his Moussa Dembele, the power that he has when driving? Yeah, I mean, that element of his game, definitely, is a really big kind of part. YouTube user says, you missed out Hincapie. I didn't miss him out. I purposely left him out. I can't put him in the squad at the moment, can I? We've not seen him play. I left him out because you just can't really put him in the squads at the moment. Samuel says, did you see Viktor Gyökeres being interviewed on CBS? I did. It was very funny. You know, I've spoken to Victor and he can be quite amusing. You know, he's very straight-faced and he's very straight down the line. But, you know, he's got a sense of humour. That Scandinavian sense of humour does exist in him. Haris says, Tom, where is the standard that we dropped out of standards? So we let our shot on target. Arteta should be held accountable for this. Dale says, Arsenal 4, Atletico Madrid 0. Viktor Gyökeres with an attempt from very close range in the bottom left-hand corner. Is that how it was described on the Sky Sports commentary? Undefined body part was used to score. Someone says, hello from Singapore. The rampage has begun. Absolutely. Lucas says, maybe Nkapie will get his debut from the bench at the weekend. Maybe. I think there's a good chance he might start in Prague. I think that could be a place where we see him play. I think Brighton in the League Cup's another good opportunity that we might see him play as well. So there are opportunities to come for these players. Maximia says, Tom, with a quarter of the season out of the way, what are your realistic expectations? I mean, the expectation's got to be the title. You know, it just has to be. That's what our expectation is this season. That's what we're aiming for. I've talked in the past about what our aims and expectations and the difference between those two words. But this season, the expectation has to be looking at the league. We're not entitled to it, but that is what we are looking at. That is what we're expecting. Second place 4 times in a row. You know, there's going to be questions as to why that has happened. So the expectation has to be one of the 2 major titles. It's got to be. It has to be. Isaiah says, have you heard about Ethan Ibrahim in the French? Yes, very talented midfielder and impressing. The height he's got on him as well for a young player is very impressive. And you know, if he bulks up, I think he'll be Very well suited to senior football. Shay says, I love Norgard, not playing much, but no complaints from him. He's just here for the ride. So I think he is kind of just here for the ride in a way, and he's an important presence in the dressing room. I think he was decent when he came off the bench. He didn't look out of place in an Arsenal team in the Champions League. So, yeah, very happy with his contributions. Mark says, I'm glad that we don't have to face any team as strong as ours. One possible exception being Barcelona. Yeah, I mean, that if Arsenal get drawn against Barcelona in the knockout phase, if we get there, when we get there, it's going to be a very intriguing game. The Bayern match I'm looking forward to. Arsenal against Bayern is always an occasion, and it's revenge. It's revenge time. It's time for Arsenal to get revenge on Bayern. No doubt about that. Mike says, yeah, we have to bring something home this season. Absolutely. And Mark says, I'm glad that we don't have to face any team as strong as ours. Oh, we can't touch on that already, didn't we? I think we might be coming towards the end of today's show. Ibrahim could be just like Vieira if he can kind of make it into the first team, says Knowledge. And Paul says, Norgard is a good player, but a better on-pitch organiser. And Max says, first time tuning in live. Keep up the good work, Tom. You've been a prophet for all things Arsenal. Thanks, Max. That's very kind of you indeed. Thank you for the kind words. Shawnito says, Diego Simeone said, we lost 4-0, but people forget who we played. We faced the best team in Europe right now. Strong words from Diego Simeone there. Puce says, Tom, why are people not considering Bayern? I think they are considering Bayern. I think I said that it's the two most informed teams along with Barcelona in the world, with PSG, of course, as well. And it's time to hit Bayern hard, says Abdullah-Key, for sure. Vacan says, off topic, did you see the La Liga Miami game getting called off? Huge victories to fans. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. Very, very happy about that indeed. Alistair says, wait a minute, who did the Arteta out brigade want to replace Arteta with? Who did they want? Mr. J says, Tom, with Rice and Zubi playing more as a pair, do you think that's why MLS is not playing as often? Do you think that Miles should be playing more often and then can release Rice into more marauding runs? I think that Calafiori has been one of our best players this season. So, yes, the argument is that Luis Miles should be playing more. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He should be playing more. But you can't really. Calafiori has been excellent. But Miles Lewis-Skelly was great. And that's what I asked Arteta yesterday. I wanted to focus on Lewis-Skelly. I asked him what he thought of his performance. That was my only question I got. And I wanted to put it about Miles Lewis-Skelly because I think he's been very patient. And I think he deserves plaudits. And I think he deserves to be talked about. So that's why I asked. And he is very impressed with him. Very, very impressed with him indeed. Mark says, so nice to have such a joyous show rather than last year with injuries, red cards, and VAR controversies. Isn't it nice? It is nice, isn't it? We are enjoying things. And even though last season, we had so much pain, we still managed to go far in 2 competitions and finish second despite all of the shortcomings around the team and 27 injuries. It still remains for me to this point in time Arteta's biggest achievement, arguably what he achieved last season with what he had. I still can't believe we went as far as we did last season with what we had. So now he's got these resources. You can now see what he truly is capable of. Wilson says, I have to say that Arsenal's second half against Atletico was absolutely brilliant. Atletico could not cope with Arsenal's physicality and pace. AG says, Tom, will there be a match day vlog for yesterday's game? Yes, there will. I'm going to be uploading it shortly after today's show has finished. Alistair says, isn't it brilliant that we can pick between 2 top left backs and not picking the worst player of the 2? Yeah. It's just all about having that competition. Shay says, okay, Tom, but seriously, why don't notifications go out on your live shows? I keep having to guess when the streams comes on. You don't have to guess. They come on every single day at the same time. So you don't need to guess, but it's not down to me. It's YouTube's fault that you don't get those notifications. Maybe it's in your notification settings. Maybe you need to double check in your settings, your notifications, whether you're getting those YouTube notifications turned on. But yeah, sometimes it is YouTube's fault. So just know 8 a.m. UK time. Find the relevant time zone that you're in that's corresponding to that. Make sure you're not messing up with daylight savings at different points of the year. When do the clocks change? I'm sure the clocks change. When do the clocks go back? Every year the clocks go back. So the clocks are going to go back on October 26th. So the clocks will go back here on October 26th. So if your clocks aren't going back, this show will be an hour earlier. Is that right? Tell me, chat box. Is that right? So if your clocks aren't changing on Sunday and ours are going back, so if say it's currently 9 somewhere else, and we go back to 8, from 8 would be then 7. It would be an hour later, wouldn't it? Not an hour earlier. So yeah, 1 hour later. So yes, our clocks go back, but then we have to go back still to 8 o'clock. So it would be an hour later. So yes, if your clocks are not going back, the show will be an hour later than usual after October 26th or on October 26th. So yeah, I can never work it out. I could never ever work it out. It's better this way around, at least, because usually what happens when the clocks go forwards here and the show is an hour earlier, people just miss it. So when it's at least an hour later, at least you will know that it's still to come and that you've not missed anything. So for those that are indeed elsewhere in the world where your clocks are not changing, whereas ours are changing on Sunday. So yes, yeah, the show will be an hour later for you, but everybody in the UK, of course, it will still be at 8 a.m. UK time. Mark says, obviously the Atletico players have yet to discover their restorative powers. Their manager thought it was a conspiracy. Culture Mark says, Tom, what is scary that Arsenal still haven't clicked yet? Imagine when we do. Hit them likes. What a fantastic team. Bazza says, if we lose, the haters pile on. If we win, the haters say that we're set-piece FC and boring. The narrative changes to suit. I'm enjoying the season and let the run continue. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why we shouldn't really pay too much attention to the haters, and we should just enjoy what we're enjoying right now. Chris says, Kai can play in any position, including left wing. Kai could even form a great partnership with Gyökeres. I think Kai coming back is going to be... That's a 60-odd million pound player we're getting back. Madueke, another 40-odd million pound player. That's 100 million quid's worth of player that's coming back in those two in the coming weeks. So, yeah, look, that's fantastic. And it's going to be great when we get all those players back as well. Jack says, oh, my God, Tom, I didn't realise Clive's face was on the big thing outside the stadium with all the faces. Yes, it is. It is. You can find Elliot on there as well. You can find Elliot. I think Amy Lawrence is there as well. But sadly, I'm not there, but that's fine. That's okay. Cam says, does Jesus find a spot? I don't think so. Odegaard as well. Yes, you're absolutely right, Soup. Odegaard, Havertz, Madueke, Jesus still to come back. Scary, isn't it? Scary, the depth that we will have in our teams. Pew says, I wish that we can keep our players fit for a big chunk of the season. Me too. If we're going to win the league, we need to keep the majority of our team fit. Absolutely. Luke says, Terry's been calling out the pundits, the narratives, and backing Arsenal. Being a United supporter, I love to see it. I have respect for people like Terry and Mark Goldbridge, to be fair, because they don't let that rivalry affect how they talk about a team. They don't. I don't. I think it's such an important thing if you're a content creator to have the responsibility to just be honest. And I know it's really easy to gain subscribers and gain followers by shouting at your screen and shouting and being negative and going rah, rah, rah and taking the mick and whatever. But you have a responsibility to just be honest, to not be a character, to not dial your personality up just for the sake of content creation. So you got to give your flowers to Terry and Mark at times for them being so grounded about Arsenal. And how they speak about Arsenal. So, yeah, fair play to them. Fair play. I don't always agree, with everything they say, and that's fine. But you've got to give your flowers to them, definitely. Arf says, love Terry and Mark, watch their shows every day. There you go. And it's probably because they're standing out at the moment. I don't always agree with as I say, with them on everything. But they're standing out at the moment because they're coming across as pretty sound. They're not doing things for the sake of it. They're saying it how it is. That phrase, saying it how it is probably the most misused phrase ever. People in the day used to say, I say it how it is, like just spouting a lot of nonsense and just shouting at your camera. That's what saying it how it is used to be. And you have to do that when you say saying it how it is because it makes you look bigger and harder. But In reality, saying how it is for some people who think it's that, is just them shouting at a camera. that's usually what they think it actually means, when it's not. It's actually just being honest, grounded, and objective about things. That's what saying as it is really is. Jacob says football is meant to bring people together, not divide them. Sadly, it often does. Terry is on the Football Terrace if you want to go and check out Terry's show. And tomorrow, we're going to have a guest. Not on the morning show, but in the afternoon show. We're going to have a guest. I'm going to keep it a little bit of a surprise, but it's someone whose podcast has been doing very well recently. And I'm very much looking forward to him making his debut on the channel tomorrow. So we're going to have a debutant on the channel tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to having a sit-down conversation, should it go ahead, if there's not any last-minute scheduling changes. It's not Spearmint. No, he's not the guest. And based upon the way he pronounces Atletico Madrid, he never will be. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow's evening show, 5 o'clock UK time. Tune in for that. Should be quite fun. Sub says, I'm cynical, but I think a part of it is because they hate the likes of Liverpool and Man City more than they hate us, and so they're being very positive about Arsenal. Maybe. And maybe that's the cynical way of looking at it. But yeah, no, it's I think it is, hopefully, at least. Maybe I'm being naive. I don't know. It'd be great. It's not Adrian Clark. I'd love to have Adrian Clark on the show. You can keep guessing if you like, but Adrian's been doing some fantastic stuff. I would love to have Adrian on, but no. It's the Thierry Henry podcast. Great recognises the goat. Absolutely. Yeah, it's Thierry Henry. He's going on the show tomorrow. 100%. Yeah, it's Henry Talks Arsenal, or rather Henry Talks Arsenal. I can't say I've watched much of Henry or seen his stuff yet, so I need to watch more of Henry's stuff, clearly, if you rate it. It's Jamie O'Hara. That's who's coming on. It's not Potsy. Potsy has made several appearances on the channel. It's not Potsy. Princess, my concern is the offside goal. Do you think Martinelli may have forgotten the offside rule? I think he was maybe just a little bit. Yeah, he can't. I think his head just went a little bit in that moment, more than anything else. Charlie says, have you seen that Hussam guy who sports Liverpool? I can't stand him. I love seeing him rage when we score. He's the O'Hara of Liverpool fans. I have seen him. There's no doubt in my mind that it's obviously he enjoys winding people up. You can get it, but so far I've only seen it from like a school playground kind of jokey, light-hearted nature to it. I haven't seen anything that's kind of personal so far. And clearly he hates Arsenal, but he's allowed to hate Arsenal. He's a Liverpool fan, so it's when people get personal that it's like that's when you just switch off and you're like, this is pointless. No point even getting into these types of discussions, is there? Simon says, totally agreed. Telling it how it is usually means this is my perspective and I can't see it from any other point of view. Normally devoid of facts and stuck in phase of, I don't know what that is, Simon. You have to let me know. James B has made several debuts on the channel. I think you can make several debuts. Turkish has also been on the channel before, so... no, it's none of these guys. No one's so far been able to guess it, and I like that. That's a good thing for me. Mark says, can you comment on Liverpool and City's fixture list at the weekend? Yep, City are away at Aston Villa, and Liverpool are away at Brentford. Arsenal at home to Crystal Palace. So it could be another really positive weekend for Arsenal. It really could. It could be a positive weekend for Arsenal. It's not Curtis. No, I have invited Curtis, as you know, many times, but so far, no dice. Mike says, honestly, I take anything against Arsenal personal. No one attacks my team. Deluded Gooner has been on the channel as well. Still not getting it. Rory has also been on the channel before. So, no, it is not him. So, yeah, look, so far, no one's got it. And I think that's great. And we've hit the hour mark, and I'm going to jump off now. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate the time. Babs has also been on the channel. So, Alex has also been on the channel. So, you're still not getting it. Walls Chats. Who's Walls Chats? Anyone heard of Walls Chats before? I've had Charles Watts on. I don't know if I've had Walls Chats on yet. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. I'm sure you will bask in that glory of that victory. There's more games on tonight, but there's also Traitors to watch, so I might be watching that instead. But have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourself. It's Trey. Trey's coming on. I haven't seen Trey in the chat since that day, to be fair. I think we might have scared him off. He's still trying to find an example, I think, of strikers being critical of Gyökeres. Thank you for tuning in, people. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal. Have a cold shower, if you will.